Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Theological Leftovers. This week I have a second video. I was talking about three. If you want to see what the third video was going to be, make sure you subscribe to our newsletter, because in the newsletter, what was going to be a brief video instead became a second article in our newsletter. So we have two articles. We'll have these two videos plus a sermon from it comes out on Monday, and it'll be from the previous day. That sermon plus any other kind of cool things that we happen to find. You know how whether it's YouTube or Facebook or whatever it is, I know I'm not on Facebook, but like on YouTube, if I click on something that I'm interested in, maybe there's a clip from a movie from when I was a kid in the 70s or the 80s, and I love that movie. I'm going to watch that clip. Then I am stuck. They assume that I want to watch every clip from the 70s and the 80s, and I just get inundated with all kinds of stuff that I don't want to see, right? You know what I'm talking about? Well, we're trying to do a positive version of that, okay, with our newsletter. The newsletter is a place where you can go, and it is our goal is for it to be sort of a repository of good things, similar things. This particular video, Theological Leftovers, is very haphazard. It's kind of just something I found that I think is cool that I want to share with you that's theological. If you're looking for something that's, in my opinion, more in-depth and orderly, systematic, if you will, then you want to look at the audio sermon, audio recordings of the sermons that we have. We include lots of articles and things as well, because it's good to be able to process the written word. So I want to encourage you to that location. That all I know made this short video not quite as short, but I hope you'll consider, if you haven't already, subscribing to our newsletter. You can just send me a comment. I'll get your email and we'll get you attached to it. Okay, you don't send your email in a comment, though. Just let me know you're interested, and I'll contact you somehow. Let's see. Oh, what I want to talk to you about is, again, from 1 Peter, our epistle reading for this coming Sunday, the fourth Sunday of Easter. We already talked about the Passion thing, but there was something else at the end of 1 Peter 2, around verses 18, 19, and 20. That I want to talk to you about a little bit. It gives us a definition of what gracious is. What is gracious? Being gracious. What do you think of when you hear that word? How would you define graciousness? Or maybe definitions are sometimes hard. What is an example of someone who is gracious? I think most of us would think this is a person who knows how to say please and thank you, right? That's a gracious person. We kind of put graciousness and gratefulness often together. We think of somebody with manners. A gracious person is someone who's a courteous person, right? Perhaps when we think of graciousness, it's we have a very sports-driven culture, so maybe it's how people handle losing, right? How they handle defeat. So I lost the baseball game as a kid in Little League, and I am going to go shake the hands of the people who beat me rather than punching them in the face. And that's graciousness, right? Maybe that's what we think of. In general, it's being pleasant, right? It's being considerate. Here, let me get the door for you. Your hands are full. Those are the sort of things that we think of, isn't it? And I think there's truth to all of that. But the way Peter defines graciousness is worth looking at. Again, if you want to look it up, it's 1 Peter 2, 19 and 20. I'm not preaching on this on Sunday, but it is the epistle reading. Here's what he says, starting at verse 19. For this is a gracious thing, when, mindful of God, one endures sorrows while suffering unjustly. I'm going to keep on reading and then we'll talk about it. He says, for what credit is it if when you sin and are beaten for it, you endure? But if when you do good and suffer for it, you endure, this is a gracious thing in the sight of God. So this is how God sees graciousness. This is how he defines graciousness. when mindful of God, one endures sorrows while suffering injustice. That's God's definition of gracious. And that's what we're called to be. This is what God means. This is what the scriptures mean when they call us to be gracious. Really interested in your thoughts, your insights on this one. I invite you to take a look and consider this wonderful definition and example that we're given. Kind of along those same lines, that's the end of the thought. New thought. I am very happy to say that after 4 years or so of doing videos, I'm actually starting to get some feedback. Not a lot, which is good. I don't have a lot of time anyway for this sort of stuff. It's not my job. It's just kind of extra. So I'm grateful for the comments. I'm grateful there's not a ton of them, but what I try to do is this, and I kind of want to explain this. I try to acknowledge that you sent a comment and thank you for it, because it does mean the world to me. It really does. And it helps us get, the message out. I also certainly appreciate, I can't think of a single example where somebody's disagreed with me, where they haven't been incredibly respectful and polite. And I really do appreciate that too, because there's plenty of that not happening. And I really, that means a lot to me. So, and I try to acknowledge that. If you disagree, let me know. And don't be afraid to disagree. I appreciate the respectfulness. I really do. The other thing I want to say is a lot of people, I ask for comments and I've been encouraging conversation. I've been rethinking that. In other words, I'm interested in what you think, but don't be surprised if I do not follow up with a second or third video on that topic. Part of it is just me trying to be a good parish pastor and not spending all of my time having a conversation with people that I've never met face to face that technically I'm not called to serve. That's being a good steward of my time and my congregation's time, but I think it's also being a good steward of your time. It's not that there's a part of me that really wants to have the conversation with you, but the truth is you need to find a church home if you haven't already. You need to find a pastor who understands that you're a member of his congregation and he has spiritual oversight and is there to guide you. And if you already have a church home, I don't want to usurp his authority. Whether we agree or disagree, this person is your pastor, and you need to you need to work with him. You need to talk to him. You need to ask him some of these questions. So if I bring something up and you have questions about it, I would like to know that, but I'm not necessarily going to follow up, because it would probably be better for you to go have that conversation with your pastor and say, this guy said this. What do you think about that? And then test both what he and I said according to the scriptures, and let them ultimately be the guide. The goal always in what we produce, whether it be in the form of video or in the newsletter or whatever, is supplemental. This is not to take the place of any real face-to-face relationship, especially those that are instituted by God, like a pastor, congregation member, or layperson relationship. So again, I appreciate the comments. Please keep them coming. But if I don't follow up and have lots of videos on one particular topic, that's the reason. That's the reason why. I'm not trying to ignore you, but I'm trying to be a good steward and stay focused on what God's called me to do. All right. Hope that makes sense. God bless you all, and God bless your week.